About planting the seed? How is sustainability a consideration at planting time?
Well, the seed technology that has developed in the last few years has been a major component of improving what we are able to grow and the sustainability of our crops. We'll step over here. We're going to take one of the first things that starts as soon as we are done harvesting. This is a soil sampling rig. Belongs to one of the local fertilizer companies, Burnt Prairie Fertilizer, that we use for input supplies. This machine will actually take soil samples. We lay out our samples. I'll show you a little bit of the way we used to do it. This is a hand soil sampling probe, and you put it down, step on it, you pull your sample out, you dump it in the bag. This machine has let us be able to soil sample at a much faster rate, and what we do is, I'll give you some examples. We lay out through GPS, we are able to lay out grids. They're 2.5 acre grids or 1 hectare grids that we sample, take 5 samples and combine those samples, and then those are sent off to the soil laboratories for what their phosphorus and potassium fertilizer recommendations are. What this lets us do is do a more precise job of putting exactly what that 1 hectare needs in fertilizer. Rather than using a broadcast rate all over the farm at the same rate, we can specialize down to 2.5 acres or 1 hectare on what we need on each one of those. The spreader rig that you see in the background here, the Terrigator, it is a 2-compartment rig. It holds phosphate in the front compartment, potash or potassium in the rear compartment. It has 2 belts. And the computer inside the machine knows what the recommendations on each one of these grids are, and those belts will run at different rates or different speeds, and it lets you combine exactly what you need for that grid and changes on the go going across the field. So this way, we're only putting out what the crop needs as far as soil fertilization, and it helps us with it helps us economically, of course. We're not using a lot of excess fertilizers. It's very sustainable. It keeps a lot of the excess fertilizers, the phosphates, and a number of things like that out of the groundwater supply, because the crop's using what you're putting on that plant or what you're putting on that field, rather than having a lot of excess fertilizer that's unused out there.
Speaking of soil, Doug, how do you ensure soil and nutrients stay in place in your fields?
We use a number of things. We'll walk back over here towards the bean field. There's a number of different farming practices that we use nowadays. No-till and mulch-till systems, terrace systems, even tiling systems that we use. This particular field is on a system tile. We have 4-inch plastic tile buried every 40 feet in this field. That helps us take care of our excess water. Also, we found that these tiling systems on a system tile will develop capillary drainage ways in the soil, and it has increased our soil moisture holding capacity without having to use irrigation and use groundwater like that. In the terrace systems that we use a berm or what we call the terrace in our more highly erosive ground that's got more of a grade or more of a fall to it. Some of the ground behind that tree line and to the north of us all require either terrace system or no-till planting to be able to control the loss of soil and the loss of soil nutrients. And so that's what we have utilized, those types of practices to make better use of the soils and to be able to maintain the health of the soil and to keep that soil in place and to maintain our yields on ground that would have, before the use of these practices, would have been less productive without the use of these particular practices. We use a number of these different things. Seed technology, genetically engineered seeds have been a major advance for us in letting us use different inputs and be able to use crop management. One of our other management tools we use in field like this is integrated pest management, or IPM. We scout the fields on a regular basis. We only apply control measures when it's called for, and when it's above the economic threshold with whatever pest that we're trying to treat for or control, whether it's an insect or whether it's a weed. only when it's called for and only when it's going to cause us to have a problem with the economic value of this crop. One of the other things I might mention that we walked past and I didn't think about, the grain system and the semi over there, after the crop is harvested, and we harvest on the go. This machine, that's the reason the auger buggy is sitting there. This machine, as expensive as it is, never stops in the field. When we're harvesting, that machine comes in underneath that, we unload on the go. We have to keep everything rolling. The grain is taken from there into the storage system in the bins out here, and that lets us be able to hold that crop until our foreign customers and buyers and end users are ready for that crop. It has a monitoring system in it. We use a remote sensing heat cables, and that tells us if there's anything occurring within that bin when the grain is stored in it, that we need to do aeration, if we need to circulate that grain, to be able to preserve the quality of that grain all the way until it goes to the end user's hands. And so there's a number of things like this that we try to capitalize on and that we use on a regular basis, on an annual basis, to be able to do a better job of getting a quality product to our customers.